The reason I was interested in doing this story was I grew up in Delaware, not too far from here. We're in Westerville at the moment, and I grew up knowing Westerville was a dry town. I didn't really know why it was dry, and I do know that it's not dry anymore, but I don't know kind of the history or what happened in between. So this year I saw that the Westerville Convention and Visitors Bureau had adopted a new slogan called "Anything But Dry," which I thought was hilarious because it clearly was playing off the history and pointing out to people that they are no longer dry. So we thought it'd be fun to come up here and learn a little bit about the history of Westerville and how it's changed and why now it's anything but dry. So we are here at the old Anti-Saloon League Museum in Westerville, and we're joined by Nina Thomas, the manager of the Westerville History Center at the Westerville Public Library. And I'm just curious, I guess, if you could tell us, Westerville, long before the Anti-Saloon League came here in 1909, correct? Westerville was very passionate about this issue. So tell me why Westerville was dry.
So our early ordinances, 1858, prohibited the sale of alcohol except for medicinal purposes. So even from our incorporation, we were anti-alcohol. Well, with the exception of medicine. Of course, we had a pharmacy uptown selling alcohol to people who were very sick, getting their medicinal alcohol. Yes, but no saloons. But in the 1870s, we had a man open up 2 saloons in Westerville, and those were both dynamited. He was allowed by state law to open up these saloons, but it was still met with animosity. People did not want a saloon here. So we were very anti-alcohol from our incorporation.
And why is that? Was that just social reasons people were against alcohol, or what was the...
I mean, yes. I mean, we were a small rural town. We had a lot, kind of a church town. We had Otterbein was originally a church school. So yeah, we had a lot of people here that felt strongly anti-alcohol. But of course, Westerville has always been a town of very passionate people and always getting involved in the big social issue of the day. So you see a lot of our people getting involved in the Underground Railroad in the 1850s. After the emancipation of slavery, people wanted to look for another cause to get involved with. And so Prohibition was the natural new social cause to get involved with. And of course, Westerville wanted to be involved in that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, is it wasn't just like the Anti-Saloon League decided to come here, pick it on a map. I mean, Westerville recruited these folks to come here. They were very interested in having this center of the temperance movement here in town.
Yes. We, our early businessmen actually purchased a number of railroad stock to ensure that we would have a railroad station here, which was also enticing for the league because they were going to be mailing out massive amounts of printing. But they came here, for a number of reasons. We're close to Columbus, we had a railroad station, and we gave them this gift of a house and the land in order for them to come and build their printing center. And of course we were anti-alcohol and excited about the Prohibition movement, so it was a natural fit for a lot of reasons.
And the printing center cranked out, did I see this right, 40
tons of material in their peak years.
Wow.
So I just looked up the statistic. 40 tons of material is equivalent to 6 elephants. So pretty big. Lots of it.
So the elephant in the room then is, how dry was Westerville really? You alluded to this earlier, there was a pharmacy selling alcohol.
Yes.
It was really dry in terms of not having establishments.
Yes.
Saloons was their big issue,
yes.
Correct? But people were drinking in Westerville.
Yes, as far as I understand. I mean, people were buying alcohol from the pharmacy, so I know that people were at least drinking from the ledger books. They're drinking gin, whiskey, sherry, wine. So they're drinking those things, but they didn't want the establishment here. We did have, early on in the 1850s, we had a couple of taverns here that served beer. But after that, after our early ordinance, there were no saloons here.
So the Anti-Saloon League successfully gets Prohibition passed. The entire nation is quote-unquote dry for 12 or 13 years. Okay. And then the end of Prohibition comes about. People are expecting the 21st Amendment to be ratified, but tell me what Westerville did in that time to kind of try to head that off at the pass.
Right. So right when we knew, so prior to the 21st Amendment passing, there was what was known as the Cullen-Harrison Act. And the Cullen-Harrison Act was passed. It enabled people to buy and sell low alcohol content beer and wine. So there was a local pool hall, Taylor's Pool Hall, that began serving low content beer. So that's between the Cullen-Harrison Act and then the repeal, which was the 21st Amendment was passed. There was about 7 months where Westerville's selling some beer uptown.
7-month window.
About a 7-month window. Quickly voting itself dry again in November of the year, but there were 7 months where people could buy beer in Westerville.
So November 1933, the town goes dry again. And when is the next beer sold in Westerville? How many years?
So we had, well, it's a little complicated, so I don't know how far back we want to go, but in 1999 we had an area of town. It wasn't our historic district, so we kind of separated in that area where it's near Meyer. They were selling alcohol there, but the vote in uptown historic Westerville, which would have been Westerville, the heart of Westerville when Prohibition was passed, the vote happened at Old Bag of Nails in 2004, and they got the first liquor license. But because of their renovations, they weren't serving it. So in between that time, another place, Michael's Pizza, got a license, and they served the first beer in 2006.
So 73 years between Taylor's Pool Hall and Michael's Pizza.
Yes.
73 years, wow. And that was just a matter of public sentiment changing, or is this economic reality that kind of putting a lot of pressure on Westerville?
It's both. You see that people, people's public perception of alcohol had changed. And so there was a number of reasons. One, we wanted to have restaurants uptown that would be viable, and we knew that not serving alcohol wasn't a good thing in that aspect, plus changing public opinion.
Sure. So the heritage of the city's temperance movement and prohibition history, of course, is so deep here in this city that here in front of City Hall, we don't have a statue of a soldier. We have a statue to Prohibition and its repeal. This statue is unique in that one side represents Prohibition, the other side celebrates its repeal. And so, in honor of that repeal, we are about to head uptown and taste the fruits of the 21st Amendment. Okay, we are here at Temperance Row Brewing Company. I should say Uptown Deli and Brew, correct?
Uptown Deli and Brew and Temperance Row Brewing Company.
Temperance Row Brewing Company, with owner Tony Cabilovski, who opened this establishment roughly 4 years ago, a little over 4 years.
4.5, yep, December of 15, yep.
I guess I want to start with that, Tony. Tell us kind of why you wanted to open a brewery in Westerville, and then also how you came up with the name.
The deli was always the front part, and we decided about the brewery. With our history here in Westerville, we thought it'd kind of be like a nod back to like the Prohibition days, where the deli is kind of like the front for the breweries in the back.
Sort of a speakeasy feel.
Kind of that vibe. As you walk through, you can see there's kind of two distinct flavors to the space. Up front is straight out deli, and as you keep going through, you kind of discover, oh man, there's a pub back here. Then you see the brewery equipment and the patio out back. So it kind of changes as you go all the way through.
And the name, as you said, you were driving around one day, and tell us about
Well, we're trying to come up with a name for the space, and Uptown Brewing, or Westerville Brewing Company, and then literally driving around for inspiration. And there's a plaque in our Temperance Row Historic District, and that was literally the aha moment, and the rest of it just kind of fell into place, and the rest of the naming and the marketing came from that.
And you have a real sense of the history of the town, Henry Corbin with the whiskey wars in the 1870s. You've really had a lot of fun with that, or kind of really pay tribute to him in a way with some of the things you've done with the names of your beers. And tell us a little about
Well, the deeper you delve into the history, it kind of sort of presents itself in a way. So Henry Corbin was the first gentleman to open a saloon, and I believe in 1895 it was the townspeople gunpowdered the space, right? So they blew the roof off of the building. He rebuilt, and they bombed that one as well. And then Mr. Corbin left and went to Columbus and became like a vegetable salesman, I believe, right? So looking through that, that's kind of the inspiration for a lot of our names. So we have a beer called Corbin's Revenge, kind of, touching back to that history. The night before he opened, in 1895, before he opened, he was anticipating trouble. So if you read through the history, it says the day that he opened the doors wielding 2 pistols. Thus, we have a 2 Pistols IPA. So it all kind of ties back to the history of Prohibition, and more specifically to Uptown's involvement in that history.
Well, so clearly you have not been bombed yet. So the townspeople.
Let's not say yet. Let's not say yet.
The townspeople have embraced it.
I get bombed in here every night. I mean, I'm kidding. It's only a joke.
I get it. I want to ask you just about the reception, not just to your establishment, but just what you can tell about what having the ability to serve alcohol has done to kind of, add a certain element to uptown Westerville.
If you were to come here to Westerville about 10 years ago on a Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, it was, you could find parking no problem. The town was empty. And that's not a knock on it. It was just a different vibe back then, right? And then it's as the liquor laws became a little more lenient and you could open places a little easier, what you see to happen is it makes it, in the restaurant business, the margins are so tight anyway that the alcohol helps fill that gap. So then people can be a little more adventurous in their concepts and what they try to open in town. So now if you cruise through on a Tuesday, we're full. And it's not just the restaurants, it's the boutiques and the shops and all other, everything that's associated with it. If you now look a little bit further, property values around Uptown have increased as well because there's more to do here now. So it's just, it's more robust and a little more vibrant altogether.
So the rising tide of alcohol has lifted all boats.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes. That's good. No, that's good.
To finish our tour of Westerville and celebrate Henry Corbin, we have some Two Pistols IPA right here. So here's to Henry and Westerville being anything but dry.
Cheers. Thank you so much to Henry.